Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're at in the world. We are so glad that you've joined us today for our presentation on employment resources and entrepreneurship for military spouses. This is the third part of our four-part series on navigating your benefits for military families. And we have a fantastic panel today that's come to give us some presentations on resources that are available. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of information to cover, so we'll begin. And I will go ahead and pass this over to Bianca, who's going to introduce our panel for us.
Hello, welcome everybody. We have a great lineup of professionals today, all who have their own role within the military community and who have either started organizations or currently work for organizations that fall into the employment realm. First up, we're going to have Erin Voirol. She's the Executive Director of the Military Spouse Corporate Career Network. Next, we'll have Kelly Henry, who is the Deputy Director for Volunteer Outreach of Blue Star Families. Roxanne Reed will be joining us. She is the founder of the Military Spouse Foundation. Joanna Williamson is the Director of Business Development, and she's also a co-founder of the Military Spouse Business Association. And then joining us later on in the webinar is going to be Rose Holland, who was kind enough to join us from her vacation. So she'll only be joining from the phone, and she's the Employment Readiness Program Specialist for Army Community Services at Fort Meade. Stephen, will the PowerPoint presentation show up?
Yes, I'm sharing that now, and
okay.
Here we go. There you go. Are you able to see it now?
No.
Okay, let me make sure I'm doing that correctly. Just one second. Okay, how about now?
I can see it.
Oh, you can see it? Maybe it's just me. Okay, it might just be me, so I will just go along with the presentation copy I have. So the purpose of this webinar is to inform you about different employment resources on base and off base. There are many organizations that have been focused on military spouse employment because our unemployment rate exceeds that of our civilian peers. So first, we'll have Erin Voirol speaking about the different resources and programs available through the Military Spouse Corporate Career Network. Welcome, Erin.
Hello, everybody. Really excited to be here today and talk to you about Military Spouse Corporate Career Network, or because that's a mouthful, what we call MSCCN. So Stephen, if you can go to slide 8 for me. And the next slide. Perfect. So just some quick background information on MSCCN. We've been around for almost 10 years now, working with spouses of all branches of service, spouses of veterans, war wounded, caregivers, National Guard and Reserve, and even fiancés and those girlfriends that are in between that fiancé, and those significant others that are in between that fiancé and spouse role, working with them on their employment search. So over the past 4 years, we've served 10,000 job seekers, and we continue to outreach. Right now we're at over 75,000 in our outreach on a yearly basis right now, and that number is growing incredibly. All of the MSCCM team members are military spouses or veterans, so we all know the challenges that are faced in employment and in the military lifestyle. We also have memorandums of understanding with each branch of service, and that allows us to build relationships with a lot of the military family centers throughout the world in support of their ongoing employment programs. Next slide. So what MSCCN offers, and we are not a job board, we are actually what we consider a high-touch employment assistance program. We actually, as I mentioned earlier, we have military spouses and veterans who work as employment specialists with us, and they provide one-on-one assistance. So oftentimes I find it's hard to say what do we do and what do we offer, because really it's individualized. It's an individualized program. So we do offer resume assistance. We'll do resume reviews. We help with interview techniques, do mock interviews, full virtual training program, some great mentorship programs. We talk about how you can leverage social media, because we all know how important LinkedIn is, and Facebook, and using social media to help you with your employment search. And then one of my favorite things, which we're going to talk about, is our recruiter connection. So next slide, please. So what we do is we have a huge partnership of employers, and this partnership allows us to speak directly to HR managers and oftentimes hiring managers for open positions. These companies are actively seeking employees from the military community. So what we do is we have the ability, once you apply for a job with over 4,000 employers, to not just say, help you target your resume for that position, but also to follow up with those HR departments and those hiring managers to make sure that your resume gets pushed through. We all hear those horror stories of those job openings where an HR department gets 150 different resumes for one position. Our ability to do this recruiter connection allows us to really kind of put your resume on the top of the stack. We also go in and we consider ourselves salesmen a little bit, and we go in and we sell you to the HR departments and those hiring managers to kind of push you through to those jobs. We do have a job bank. We have over 1 million open positions. They're updated on a daily basis, so it's what we consider a clean feed. These aren't old jobs that have been sitting in there and not updated. We have a relationship with Direct Employers Association, which is the largest consortium of employers in the United States, and they are all very military friendly. So we do have a large job bank. We do work with companies outside of those job banks, though, and we will help you target your resume for any position. It doesn't have to be one of the 1 million in our job bank. We also have a unique program that we created that's a work-from-home call center program. It includes training for those job seekers that are new to the call center environment. So you go through a fairly quick, it's not very lengthy, virtual training environment where you learn more about what it means to be at home in the call center environment. And then from there, with your certificate that you get from that training, you can then apply for multiple different positions with legitimate work-at-home companies. These are not contract positions. These are actually employee status positions with benefits the majority of the time. Next slide. So this kind of shows you our process. Where do we start? Many times our candidates come over from the Military Family Center, or another NGO refers a military spouse or family member to our program. And from there, we do a lot of tracking, but we also start the process right off the bat. You get a welcome email from your employment specialist. You are assigned an employment specialist based on your resumes and the skills that we see when you register on our system. And that employment specialist will send you a welcome email and then work with you to kind of assess where you're at that moment. We have a full assessment skills assessment program that we use that's pretty unique and pretty neat that we've rolled out in the last couple of months. That allows us to validate skill sets for recruiters or HR professionals. And we found that to be another high-touch piece that our HR folks that we work with really enjoy seeing, and again, it makes you unique at the top of that stack when they're looking at quite a few applicants for a position. And then from there, we work on some talent match, help you think outside the box. We find that people pigeonhole themselves a lot of times to one particular industry, not realizing that they have quite a few different skill sets. And then again, as I mentioned, your employment specialists will work with HR professionals to help you for immediate consideration for positions. Next slide, please. All right, and so because we are only employment-based, a lot of times we get questions that are kind of outside of what we consider our lane. So we do have partnerships. Some of those folks are on the phone today. We work through the Spouse Nation Initiative, and that allows us a partnership with Macho Spouse, Military Musters that works on a life coaching basis, Military Spouse Education Initiative, which is all education-based, and the Military Spouse Foundation, and Roxanne Reed, who you'll hear from momentarily. Next slide, please. All right, and one of my favorite things is our volunteer program. So a lot of times we find when we're speaking with military spouses that they have career gaps. Maybe they've stayed at home, or due to some interesting locations, they've had difficulty finding experience or finding employment. And so we created the MSCCN Career Corps in our volunteer program to assist with those gaps. You can see some of the positions we have available now. Even if you come to us and we don't have a position available, we actually also have what we call our ambassador program, and we work with other organizations that we vetted that work also in the military community to help them fill their volunteer positions. And I know, as you're going to hear from Blue Star Families, volunteerism is a great way to boost your resume. Next slide. All right, so that's it for me. Please come to see the website, click on the Job Seeker tab. We are a no-cost program. We really are excited to work with AMPA members and just absolutely pleased to help you with your employment search.
Thank you, Erin. Next, we're going to bring on Kelly Henry from Blue Star Families. One of the reasons and driving forces behind them creating the resume toolkit was the Department of Labor found that in 2012, military spouse employment was exceeding 26%, which is about 3 times the national average. And it is no surprise, considering we move so often. It is hard for us to pursue our dream careers often, but there's this new energy by organizations in the nonprofit sector to really prove to spouses that they can be whatever they want to be. They just do not have a straight line to that goal. So Kelly's going to talk about how you can take volunteer experience, translate it to your resume in a way that employers will understand.
Thanks, Bianca. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Henry. I am the Deputy Director for Volunteer Outreach with Blue Star Families. I'm a Navy veteran and an Army spouse, and I can speak with some authority about the difficulty in finding paid employment. Next slide, please. Blue Star Families is a national nonprofit. We're not as old as some. This year marks our 4-year anniversary as a nonprofit. But one of our signature resources is our annual Military Family Life Survey. Each November, we launch a survey to ask military families what are the top issues that are facing them. And not surprisingly, financial issues are one of them. But this past year, we saw a lot of concern about the retirement benefit changes that were under discussion, pay and benefits, and we consistently see that spouse employment is a big concern among our military family respondents. Next slide, please. We find that over half of military spouses desire employment, but they have discovered that the requirements of military service make that a very difficult thing to achieve. Next slide. Almost half of our respondents felt that they had not gotten a particular job or been treated differently because of their military spouse status. Now, this slide shows us that across the board, nearly 60% of our service member families are not employed, and that of those who are employed, most are not employed on a full-time basis. Not surprising to the Marine Corps spouses are employed at a higher rate than their other service peers, and they are also better informed about those types of resources that exist to help with the employment search. Next slide. We all know what those obstacles are to employment: frequent moves, being overqualified or underqualified for the jobs that are available in your current market, difficulty finding childcare, and then one of the big challenges is, for many of our families, is the challenges associated with deployments or frequent PCSs. One issue that's been an ongoing challenge for military spouses has been transferring certifications or licenses across state lines. Last year, Mrs. Obama and Dr. Biden made that a priority, and since they announced this initiative, 36 states have passed legislation allowing military spouses to transfer their professional certifications or licenses if they're moving to a state as a result of a PCS move. 8 other states are considering that legislation, leaving only 6 states who have not yet addressed the issue. Hopefully that will ease that challenge and we'll see that answer drop right off the list. Next slide, please. We have our military spouse employment. Oops, did I skip a slide? Did we skip, Stephen?
No, I don't believe we did.
Okay, I'm out of order then. Can you? Okay. Not only are we trying to find more diverse employment resources for military families, but we're also trying to educate people about what those resources are. Again, only 1/3 of Marine Corps spouses indicated that they knew about the types of resources that are available, and the Marine Corps spouses were better informed than any other subset of our survey respondents. Next slide, please. Our employment toolkit has 4 different components. The resume translator, which Erin referred to, thank you. It takes volunteer language and it turns it into really robust resume bullets. We also have a section on frequently asked questions, career sector advice, which is specific to the various career sectors, federal government, nonprofits and NGOs, retail, for example, and then we provide sample resumes that will illustrate how you incorporate that volunteer service into a professional resume. Next slide, please. 81% of spouses have volunteered in the past year. That's a huge number. It shows an extraordinary level of civic engagement by our military family members. And 10% of military spouses volunteer 30 or more hours a month. And you see the types of organizations that we're volunteering with: USO, Red Cross, PTAs, religious groups, or even just assisting friends and neighbors. Volunteering is something that is a common bond among military families. Next slide. Despite the fact that we have this strong ethic of volunteerism, not everybody includes that in their resume. Many people don't include it because they think it doesn't apply or they don't think of it as valuable or relevant. Next slide. So if you look at a typical type of volunteer, a Navy ombudsman who serves as the link between the command and the families, one of the things that they do is they create newsletters or they create email lists or Facebook posts to communicate information to the families. But on a resume bullet, you could phrase that as established and maintained a communication system ensuring accurate and timely information dissemination for over 300 members of an organization. That's a powerful resume bullet. Next slide. Volunteering with USO gives you the same kinds of opportunities. Even if your duties are only just opening and closing the USO Center each day, you could write that as coordinated with USO staff and operational support activities by serving as a liaison between USO management and staff and the resolution of day-to-day administrative and operational problems. That demonstrates the scope of the responsibility a volunteer has. Next slide. Our frequently asked questions use original research to answer your employment questions. So it's real advice for military family members from those who have already walked this path. And it's not just advice that's being passed along. It's been researched, developed, and tested to make sure that what we are passing along is actually going to be helpful to you in your job search. Next slide. Some of the topics include networking in anticipation of your next duty station, or how do you present the advantages of being a military spouse when you do land that interview. Next slide, please. In the resume toolkit that we have online, we also talk specifically about 4 different career types: serving in the federal and public sector, serving in nonprofits and NGOs, serving in the corporate or private sector, or serving in the retail and service sector. They all have their own strategies for success. Next slide. Here's an example of what that page looks like. This handbook is tremendous. I would encourage everybody to go to our website and download it. It's really a valuable resource. Next slide. Finally, leveraging your volunteer experience on a resume. I retired from the Navy in 2004 and didn't gain paid employment until this year. So I have a 9-year paid employment gap in my career history. In fact, when I was applying for a paid job this spring, the last time I had applied for paid employment was when I was 16 years old and was applying at McDonald's to work the cash register. So I definitely had some gaps in my resume. But what I did do in that 9 years between when I retired from the Navy and when I gained paid employment this spring was I volunteered. I volunteered with my children's schools. I volunteered with our church. I volunteered in the community. And I was able to capture that volunteer experience using this toolkit and frame my volunteer work in a way that showed that I had gained professional work experience during that time frame. One of the things we recommend often is that instead of having a chronological resume, which for a military spouse can be the kiss of death because you'll have gaps and lots of job jumping, is create a functional resume where you can group like jobs and like experiences and show that you have growth and broadening experience from position to position. Next slide. Another item I'd like to point you to is we have Blue Star Networks, which is based on Facebook, and we have that broken up into 3 groups to allow peer-to-peer networking. We also have Blue Star Jobs, which is very similar to what MSCCN has described. We have a partnership with Odesk for Blue Star family members where you go online, you create a job profile, and then corporations can reach out to you for paid employment from your home. Next slide. The Facebook networks are terrific as well. We have 3 of them: Blue Star Entrepreneurs, Blue Star Healthcare Professionals, and Blue Star Educators. This allows you to tap the experience of those who've gone before you to connect with folks who are perhaps at a future duty station or your current duty station, and to get information about job openings, licensing, credentialing, education requirements, or even just expanding your professional network in a virtual environment. Next slide. Here's a couple of our rave reviews. The resume toolkit really is tremendous, and I'm not just saying that because I work for Blue Star Families. It's a great resource. It really is a powerful tool to help you translate your volunteer experience into a resume that's going to make employers take notice. Next slide. And finally, please don't apologize for being a military spouse. I mean, it can be hard to meet with an employer and not know how long you're going to be there. But even if an employer only has you working for them for 6 months, in that 6 months, you're going to be such an incredible asset to that organization. Military spouses, by definition, have to be flexible, independent, team players, responsible, motivated. Any employer would be lucky to have you, and make sure you present those attributes of being a military spouse when you're seeking employment. We are better educated than our civilian peers. We are generally more well-traveled, and we're highly resilient. We are problem solvers, and we make great, great, great employees. Next slide. If you have any questions about the Blue Star Family Employment Toolkit, our program manager is Kristen Orr-Schiffer. She's the Blue Star Careers Managing Analyst. That's her email address on the screen. And I would strongly encourage you all to download our Employment Toolkit. It's a terrific resource, and it will come in very, very handy as you move forward with your job search. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Next up, we're going to have Roxanne Reed. She is a Marine spouse, and she is also the founder and executive director of the Military Spouse Foundation.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's really a pleasure, and it's so wonderful to be on this panel. It's truly an honor. The Military Spouse Foundation came out of the desire and needs of a lot of the career preparedness and the entrepreneurship efforts that have been going on in the community. And we are one of the newest organizations on the block, and we have been very fortunate and blessed to work with almost everyone here on the panel, and to really provide a unique component to helping to prepare military spouses for both entrepreneurial opportunities, contracting opportunities, and traditional employment. Next slide, please. The Military Spouse Foundation is staffed by military spouses, and we also work in liaison with a lot of veterans as well. Since 2001, we have been helping military spouses build careers and businesses, mostly through one-to-one mentoring. and also working very diligently to always make sure that any spouse that comes into the MS family knows about all the organizations and the beautiful programs that are offered. The exciting new growth twist to the MSF is that we added a new technology platform in concert with a technology partner, Logic Bay, and we have been able to create what feels like a military spouse online campus that is very focused on career preparedness and entrepreneurship. And we, of course, liaison very closely with all of our organizational partners to really do our part in the preparation side. Going into next year, this fall and into next year, we are really looking on expanding our presence and making sure that military spouses know we're available. So we're really honored to be here tonight to share this information as well. Please. What we decided was needed, and we were working very closely with a technology company to find a way to take a lot of the transferable skills courses, the career preparation courses, and the entrepreneurship needs, and bring it into an online, technology-driven, scalable opportunity for spouses. The EDU Center is self-contained, but it does provide all kinds of amazing opportunities to work with industry experts. You can connect with like-minded spouses, but what really makes us unique is our actual training tools. We have built a learning model in concert with a lot of EDU technicians who have built coursework and training tools for colleges around the country and also for large-scale businesses. But we really focused on making sure that whatever we built was built around the spouse. It's self-paced. You can go through it on your own if you like, but you can also join into our career prep rallies where you're actually in a team with other military spouses. It's interactive. All of the modules are web-based. All of our course content is based on real-life stories of successful spouses looking for employment, who are wandering and are not quite sure where they fit in, and, of course, spouses that are looking to start businesses. We work very closely in helping through the tools to identify and build skills, and you are consistently with a trained mentor, and we also work closely with organizations to support any training efforts that they might have as well. Next slide, please. And this is just a quick snapshot of the different areas that we deep dive into. We have our orientation. We spend most of our time working on the transferable skills, which many of the organizations have spoken to today so beautifully, volunteerism, especially the power of that. We have a memory mapping system and a training module that really helps take you back 10 years, 5 years, and really massages and does a deep dive into what all those beautiful skills, education, experience that you have that makes you so valuable to the market at large. We have one of our modules speaks very deeply into entrepreneurship. We find that a lot of military spouses do not realize that they actually have a lot of entrepreneurial skills and the benefits of entrepreneurship. Even if you plan on having a long-term career in a hiring environment, learning a little bit about entrepreneurship also helps you to understand different levels of management. So we have a module that focuses on that. Our resume system is very focused on helping you to collect up your skills and building it into a master resume that you will learn how to groom and to build over your career lifetime. Networking is huge. I know for myself, I have gone to many events, and you walk up to a potential employer or a booth, and they ask you a very specific question, and you freeze. And we help to get over that emotional component. It's very nerve-wracking when you're going after a career, or even if you're going in front of a banker for an entrepreneurial opportunity. So we really work hard with our counselors to make sure that you feel very confident before you engage in those opportunities. And then with interviewing skills, we do the same thing, deep dive. We work over things that you might get stuck on or fears that you might have. Kelly brought up some of those components that we as spouses often face. And we work very hard with organizations like MSCCN that once spouses are ready, we work to make sure that they're always in the right hands with recruiters. We at the MSF are not a job placement or a recruiter. We work strictly on the training, mentoring, and the emotional side of preparing for your opportunities. Next slide. We always like to share that we include and work with all branches of service, all military spouses. If you have been a spouse for 20 years or 2 years, we are honored to work with you. Everyone is accepted and included in the program. Next slide, please. This is a really fun campaign that we have put together. It's the MSF 10,000 Dreams campaign. On our website, we have a downloadable dream card. And as you can see, military spouses are starting to write their dreams, post those dreams, not only to inspire each other, but also to learn and find others that might be like-minded or those that might have connections out in the market. But it's really there to make you feel good, and our MSF counselors are always working hard and encouraging to make these dreams come to light. So we really hope that you take the time to even fill this out and put it up on your own dream board just to keep you motivated. Next slide. And that is the MSF in a nutshell. And again, we are very honored to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Roxanne. Roxanne briefly touched on entrepreneurship, which has become a very popular career path for military spouses because it is portable. You can bring it with you wherever you go. You dedicate as many hours or as few hours as you want to your venture. So in the last few years, we have seen an uptick in the amount of spouses that are running their own business. And that is the primary focus of the Military Spouse Business Association. Joanna is joining us from the beautiful island of Hawaii, and I am kind of jealous about that. Welcome aboard, Joanna.
Thank you, and aloha. My name is Joanna Williamson. I am a co-founder of the Military Spouse Business Association. And first and foremost, military spouse and mom, but business owner. And a little bit of history regarding MSBA. When I first started my business back in 2005, I thought, I felt like I was reinventing the wheel, and surely this had been done before, and sought out other spouses to pull our information together and have it in one location so that as we are a mobile community, that place of information is always accessible 24/7. And we were founded, believe it or not, in a lunchroom at IKEA in Bethesda. And as we were sitting there trying to decide what are the actual challenges of being an entrepreneur and military spouse, we realized that one of the greatest challenges for military spouses in general was our residency issues. So even at the dawn of MSBA, we realized it was bigger than just business owners. And we took a little hiatus to push through Congress the Military Spouse Residency Relief Act and make sure that military spouses everywhere don't have to change their residency based solely on a DOD move. And that took us through 2009. And in 2010, we really regrouped and began focusing on specific programs for military spouses, the military spouse business owners. The Military Spouse Business Association website, milspousebiz.org, is free to join for business owners. And once you do, you have access to the various programs that we have currently in place and the future ones coming online. Currently, we have the red, white, and blue listings. We realized that we needed to have a directory, or military spouses needed to have a directory for their businesses, and that the communities at large could access readily, because that is one of the largest challenges when you are moving a business. You have to start again, and you're starting in a new community. However, if you can have a permanent listing and all you have to do is change your address, it allows your presence, your business presence, to be maintained throughout PCSing. We also have an Ask an Attorney or Ask a CPA. One of the largest challenges for starting a business is not the lack of ideas. There are so many ideas out there. It's, what do I do now? I have this great idea. Now what do I do? So we have volunteer attorneys and CPA who will answer those questions for you and help guide you through those. You know, is it a legal question or is it an accounting question, and help set you on the path of starting that business. We also carry a comprehensive list of housing agreements for OCONUS. That's a challenge for moving a business overseas. What do I do when I move my business overseas? There are certain SOFA agreements that you have to comply with. What do I do there? And it can be overwhelming for spouses who, again, they have a great idea, they want to launch that idea, but the questions that can be overwhelming. We also have an active Facebook page where you've heard it mentioned previously about the peer-to-peer mentoring or peer-to-peer advice. The idea being that I don't know, I'm not the expert in all areas, but I know something about my particular area, and you know something about your particular area, and together we can share our ideas, and by doing that, we all can grow. We do also offer traditional mentoring programs where established CEOs will offer their time to mentor new or people who are interested in taking their business to another level. So peer-to-peer often works with starting businesses. Where do I go? Where do I register my business? And then you get to a certain point in your business life cycle where you go, okay, I think I need more honed in information, and that's available to you too. Another program that we recently had was the Red, White, and Blue Awards, where we're fundraising in order to support businesses and getting businesses growing. It's always been our belief that if we can support military spouse-owned businesses throughout the service member's career, that at the time of transition, when the service member is transitioning to the civilian world, if the business is active and full, the service member has an option to join that business because they've been a part of that process throughout, or to start their own business because they've seen how the process works and that life cycle, or they have the opportunity to not be as stressed when trying to find a civilian job or transition into the civilian community because they know that there is a partner with a already sustainable business. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping in a little bit. Some of the things that we find interesting are the sort of did you knows, that when you begin a business and you're researching all the information, most of the information out there is for civilian-based businesses. We have additional challenges. Our business life cycle will be slightly different every time we PCS. We have to account for shutting down the business, moving the business, and then having enough revenue to restart at basically the same point where you left off. And that has to be a part of your business plan, which a lot of people, again, once you have the great idea, go, how do I write a business plan? And that's what we're here for, to help with all those questions. Some of the things that are important to keep in mind are, how do you organize your business? Am I a sole proprietor? Should I be an LLC? Should I be an S Corp? Again, decision making that gets a little bit confusing, and we're here to say all the information that you find out there does pertain to you, but keep in mind that when you're a military spouse-owned business, there are certain risks that you have to account for. One of them being, traditional businesses can go bankrupt, and that's fine. But if you go bankrupt, that could have an effect on security clearances. So keep that in mind when you're choosing how to incorporate your business, or whether or not you're going to choose a sole proprietorship. We are a part of the Military Spouse Business Alliance. That's through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and the Business Alliance is a sort of aggregate of nonprofit military spouse communities working together to alleviate the employment challenge. MSBA, we've always felt that self-employment is an answer to the employment challenge. It's difficult to find a job everywhere you go. The numbers are out there, and it's difficult to move a business. However, if you can make it through these challenges, and we're here to support you through these challenges, you can have a successful career, 10, 20-year career through your own entrepreneurship. I apologize for not having the slides ready for you, but basically, in a nutshell, we are here to help you navigate the entrepreneurship world from beginning to more robust business ownership. It can be done. We know that most corner offices are really the corner of the dining room or the living room or a bedroom, or even it just might be a closet. But from there, it can grow into having your own even physical presence or brick and mortar store. And we want to be able to see and promote all of those businesses. So if you have any questions, please feel free to come check us out at www.milspousebiz.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Stephen, can you go back one slide? Yep. So the next piece, I don't know if Rose is on yet, but we're going to talk about the employment readiness resources that are offered to you by your different branches. Each installation center has an office dedicated to employment readiness. Spouse employment is a key issue for DoD leadership because many military personnel make retention decisions based on their family's financial stability. The roughly 60% of all military spouses who are part of the labor force contribute between 20 and 40% of their family's income. The primary mission of the Family Employment Readiness Program is to provide information on employment and education opportunities, assist in planning careers that are compatible with the mobile military lifestyle, teaching how to develop and use job search skills and strategies, making connections with employers, other professionals, and support networks, assisting in finding employment opportunities that meet your needs, and enabling spouses and family members to relocate more readily with their military sponsors. Joining us to talk about the employment readiness piece is Rose Holland. She works aboard Fort Meade in the Army Community Services. Rose, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can.
Excellent. A lot of what we do is really working with our military families, not only spouses, but also youth, our retirees, their families, and also civilian employee and their families. A lot of people don't realize that teens can come in and use our services, as can retirees and civilian employees. I think that's important to know because our civilian employee spouses have the same kind of challenges. A lot of times I'll have a spouse come in to me and I'll say, well, what kind of job do you want? And she says, well, any job. Well, as a military spouse, I don't want that person to just take any job. I want to know, what's your dream job? How can we get you there and really do that career planning? So we'll work with resume writing, with taking those volunteer skills, because so many of our spouses don't even think about all those wonderful skills they gain as a volunteer, as we're hearing over and over again from our speakers, and really building up that resume, working with them one-on-one. How do you take a job posting and really put your resume to meet that job posting? You know, we want our spouses to realize the amazing things that they can do, and they really can. Another piece that we offer that is really important is the federal job. As a military spouse, you do have what's called the spouse preference. Now, a couple caveats to that, and please take note so that the next time you PCS, you do have to be married before you can claim spouse preference. So even if you have been on your installation for one day and you got married right when you got there, you've kind of goofed yourself up, because you no longer have that spouse preference until your next move. Your name must be on your military members' orders. Very, very important. So make sure you have that. That also opens a lot of other benefits to you, including, depending on what state, the ability to get unemployment. It can also open up services at your local one-stop. For example, in Anne Arundel County, there is a program for transient workers, for workers who've relocated. As a military spouse, you qualify in that county for that particular program. So it depends on, again, county to county, that can vary. Part of what we do as employment readiness is to help educate you and empower you so you can really find that perfect job for you, so you can develop that career and figure out, what do you really, really, really want to do, not just settle for whatever job. So that's our goal. So the other, there's a couple other things to be aware of on a military installation. No matter what service, you have something like employment readiness, whether it's work life with Coast Guard, Fleet and Family Center, Airman and Family Ready Center, and Army Community Service. We all have employment readiness. Take advantage of those services. The other thing is, when you move to new installation as a military spouse, to claim the spousal preference, you must have a federal resume, and you will actually register with the Civilian Personnel Advisory Center or the CPAC. As your service member gets ready to retire, there are, if they are retiring, it's 2 years out. If they are ending their term in service or ETSing, it's 1 year out. You have access to a transition program. So in the Army, that's called ACAP. For Navy and Air Force, it's called TAP, Transition Assistance Program. Please make sure that you and that service member take advantage of those programs. You'll have access to Army Community Service or your Employment Center at Fleet and Family as you transition out as well. Take advantage of all those resources. Learn about the resources. We have resources. I learned about 2 new resources today, so I'm excited to take that back to our office. And not only let my coworker know, who's our program manager, but we'll also let G9 and make sure that that word gets out to the other services on our installation and in our region. So this is great information today. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rose. Now, one of the greatest challenges that we hear from military families in seeking employment is actually having quality, affordable child care to take care of the kids so that you can do your job. So I have included 2 resources for child care assistance. One is a program through the Department of Defense, It is for the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. The amounts you are eligible for vary per branch. You have to contact the office directly to find out how much they provide as a subsidy. But basically what they do is they provide a subsidy to help you afford child care that is provided through a quality center. So the center has to meet certain standards before they will allow you to enroll in the program. It's called NACRA. The link to access the site is in the presentation. Again, we had touched on this when we did the education webinar. When I was on recruiting duty with my husband, who's a Marine, the amount of child care was equivalent to my mortgage. So we found out about this program, and at the time they were paying $250 per month per child. So they were paying $500 of my child care costs. And this is for any age child, to include school-age children. The second resource is Sitter City. You get a free membership as a military family. It allows you to find qualified babysitters, tutors, elder care, pet sitters, whatever your need is. And I recently used this for tutoring for my children. Next slide. Other resources. So as you'll learn from what we discussed today, there are organizations on base and off base that will assist you with every step of the job process, to include figuring out what you even want to do. Some people don't want a career. Some people just want a job to get out of the house for a few hours or to help contribute to the family income. Some people aspire to be entrepreneurs. Whatever it is that you're interested in doing when you grow up, there's an organization or a program out there to help you figure that out. Military One Source is one that you will hear continuously as you learn about the different resources in our community. They have 24-hour help, 7 days a week, counselors who will assist you with whatever your questions are concerning education, career opportunities, child care, getting to know about your new duty station, getting to know about where you will be going to. Whatever step of your military life you're in, Military One Source can assist you. There's also the Military Spouse Employment Partnership. It was created to have employers come together who are interested in hiring military spouses. The Military Spouse Employment Partnership also educates employers about our unique skill sets. The different job listings can be found by location at the link that's posted. And then hiring our heroes. Joanna had talked about the Military Spouse Business Alliance. It falls under the U.S. Chamber of Commerce program. They do different job fairs around the country, specifically for employers who want to hire veterans and military spouses. And this isn't a myth. This is an actual program that I've referred people to who have been able to find real quality jobs. And you can find a listing of where the job fairs will be next at the link that's provided. Next slide. So in summary of some of the things we talked about, MSCCN, they will take you through, they have a job posting board where you can look up over 1 million postings for jobs. They can help you prepare your resume. They can help you review your resume. They can role play with you to prepare for interviews. Basically, regardless of what your role or branch is, they are there to assist you in finding what kind of job that you're interested in. Volunteerism is a valuable way to build up your resume. Now, I recognize that if you're looking for a job because you need income, being told to go do an unpaid volunteer position might not be what you want to hear. But if you are in a location where you just cannot find a job at the time, to avoid those volunteer resume, to avoid the gaps in your resume, volunteering is a great way to eventually find employment. I volunteered with Blue Star Families for 6 months, and then I was able to obtain a director's position there. And my experience was nowhere in the realm of what I was being hired for before I started volunteering. So I would highly encourage you. There are over 4,000 nonprofits whose mission statement includes military families or veterans. I would highly encourage you, if you are currently looking for employment and cannot find it, to seek out a volunteer position with one of those organizations. We also talked about entrepreneurship, which is very popular within our community. MSBA and the Military Spouse Foundation, they have great resources available to help you get started with whatever business you aspire to open. Rose talked about utilizing the programs offered to military family members through the different military branches. They do things similar to the organizations on the call. They'll assist you with preparing a resume. A resume is one of the signatures of getting your foot in the door. I had worked some job fairs in the past, and unfortunately, the resumes I saw from military family members turned me off. And that's me being a spouse who, of course, wants to see spouses get jobs, but people were handing me resumes that were 10 pages long, outdated, contained information that completely made me not want to read it. So a resume is a very important step in the job process, and I would encourage you to use any of the people we spoke with today to make sure your resume is representing your value correctly. And then the last thing, child care assistance and other resources. They were at the tail end of the presentation. Some additional tips I would touch on. Networking is very important. Anywhere you go, you should have a business card with you. It doesn't have to be that one that represents your current job. Have your name, whatever your top 3 skill sets are, and your contact information on there. So when you go anywhere, you just have no idea who you may run into who can lead to a job for you. Keep your resume current. Pay attention to resume trends. Every couple years, the trend of how you should have your resume organized changes. And LinkedIn is another great tool. I'm on LinkedIn. It connects me to all kinds of different business sectors. So I would highly encourage you to create a profile on there. And I think that's it. We'll get to questions now.
Yes, thank you so much to the entire panel for joining us today. We're really appreciative of it. We'll go to questions now if anyone has any. There's the ability to type in the question in the question box on the control panel or to raise your hand, and we will go there. It looks like Kim in California has a question. She has her hand raised. So Kim, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and we will get your question. Kim, are you there?
I might have had my hand up.
Hey, did you have a question, Kim?
I actually did not.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. We will see here. All right. I'm going to go to the question chat box, see if anybody else has any questions. And if not, then we will go to our drawing for the free 1-year subscription to Military Spouse Magazine. Just going to check. Give a few seconds to anybody. They do have questions. Great. I don't think anyone does. So, yeah, go ahead.
This is Joanna, and I actually had a question for the attendees. And my question is, how many have thought of entrepreneurship as a solution?
If you have thought of that, go ahead and I'll tell you what, instead of unmuting everyone, you can type in the chat box that you have considered that. And while we do that, if there aren't any other questions, we will go ahead and draw the names for the Military Spouse Magazine subscription. And we're very thankful to Military Spouse Magazine for these 3 free 1-year subscriptions. So the way this is going to work is Bianca has drawn a few numbers randomly, and I'm going to go down the list of folks logged in, and that number will line up to a name, and that person will win a free 1-year subscription to Military Spouse Magazine. So it looks like our first winner is Kelly Romano in California. So Kelly, what we'll do is follow up with you by email afterwards and get you connected to Bianca so you can get that subscription. And the second winner is Maria Ramos. Maria, congratulations. We'll follow up with you afterwards by email and get you connected to Bianca. And then the third and final winner is Chenoa Rutledge in Hawaii. Congratulations, Chenoa. We'll follow up with you by email afterwards. Fantastic. Well, if no one else has any other questions, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And once again, I want to thank the panel for joining us today. For all of you who did attend, the slides and the presentation will be available on our website afterwards in case you missed anything or if there's anything you wanted to go back and check out again. So please do check that out. And if you're not in our private online support network, just for military partners and spouses, you can message us on Facebook to request to be added to that as well. And if there's anything else, Bianca, did you have anything else to add?
No, just as always, if you have any questions, the website partners@militarypartners.org, whether it's about education or the medical benefits or employment, or if there's a webinar you'd like to see us put together, send your suggestion over to that email address.
And you know, we do have a few folks that have popped in some questions. There's been a few folks that have said they have considered entrepreneurship to answer your question. Also, we have a question from Kim Baugh who says, can the spouse preference be used more than once, i.e. when we move duty stations?
Rose, are you on the line still?
Bianca, this is Erin. I can help answer that question.
Okay.
If she's off. Yes, that spouse preference is available for up to 2 years for every duty station move. So once you've arrived to your new duty station, as long as your name is on your spouse's orders, then you can claim spousal preference, but you do need to register with your employment office at your new duty station, and be sure to do that as soon as you get there.
Great. We do have a few other questions, which is great. They're coming in. Have you had any hairstylists who have had problems or even great situations moving across the states? Someone mentions licenses being transferable between states. Does that include Cosmo licenses as well?
Hi, Stephen. Yeah, this is Kelly. They're absolutely part of it. What you're going to have to do, though, is look at the state you're moving to. Every state's legislation is written just a teeny bit differently. So some states are very broad in terms of what licenses and credentials they'll accept from military spouses who are arriving as a result of a PCS move, and some are a little more narrowly drawn. But absolutely, cosmetology licenses are included in that in many, many states.
Fantastic.
In fact, some states are even offering that to attorneys now. North Carolina allows an attorney who moves to the state of North Carolina to not have to take the bar in order to practice law in the state.
Great. And I apologize, I had Rose muted, so I have unmuted her if she wanted to jump in at all.
There's a couple points I wanted to make. First, about the military spouse preference. In addition, if you do get a federal job and you have to PCS or move, one of the things you get is priority placement program. And just like the military spouse preference, you have up to 2 years with us. So this is how I got the job I have now, is I was a PPP person. Once a job is available that you qualify for, they have to hire you above anybody else. It's like you're an internal applicant. So it's a really good program for us as military spouses if you want to do federal employment. But again, you have to, make sure you follow all the rules. Make sure you get on your spouse's orders. Did I mention that a couple times? Really, really important.
Great.
Can I make a quick mention on that too? Is that I recently had a friend of mine who PCS to Hawaii, but was not married at the time, and got married in Hawaii, but because she wasn't on the orders, she did not receive spousal preference. So that is very, very important.
And it's also important for getting unemployment benefits. So like when we moved from California, I received unemployment benefits from the state of California when we PCS to Maryland. So, and it's because my name was on my husband's orders. So
Great.
that's very, very important. The other thing with licensure, again, it goes by state. Maryland has a wonderful, very progressive, they're one of the first that put it into practice. When you PCS to Maryland, you get a temporary license. You have to apply for it. So I've had my first spouse apply for that actually this week, so she's supposed to keep me posted how it goes. They're according to their website, and they've actually made it very user-friendly. They have on their licensure, their state licensure website, they actually have a military button to push, that will take you through and explain the whole process. You get a temporary license for a year. They compare the state where you have your licensure from with the state of Maryland. If there are differences, they give you a year to meet the qualifications of Maryland, because Maryland in some cases has very stringent requirements. So it's really, in a lot of states, I think are going to adopt the model that Maryland has. It's a very positive model. So it's going to vary from state to state, just as being able to get unemployment compensation varies from state to state as well. So it's something to keep in mind as you PCS.
Great.
If I could add to the licensing for hairstylists also, if you are planning on running your business out of your home, and if you are planning on living on base, you do need to make sure that you check with the lease agreement as whether or not that particular business type is allowed on base. If you can check that ahead of time before you move, and that will help you with your housing options.
And the same goes for if you're overseas. When we lived in Italy as a military spouse, if I worked off post, I lost my privileges at the commissary in PX. That was part of the status of forces agreement. So you need to know that before you move. In Italy, you were not allowed to have a home business, but it was different in Germany. So it depends on where you live.
Exactly. Thank you.
Wow, that's some great information for everyone. Did you have something else to add there?
Yeah, your relocation readiness, if you are moving overseas, your relocation readiness can point you in the right direction. They're at your Army Community Service, Fleet and Family Service Center, Airmen and Family Readiness Center. They will point you in the right direction. They have the answers to those kinds of questions. And even here, when you're PCSing within the United States, go to those people, ask them those questions. That's what they get paid to do, and that's what they're really passionate and they want to do. Most of us who work at Army Community Service or Fleet and Family or any of those, we're very, very passionate. On Fort Meade, we have all the different services represented, and we all work hand in hand together. It's a wonderful relationship. And we all care about military spouses, no matter what. We're excited that y'all are coming on board. So we're excited to start working with you and serving you.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. And thank you to the entire panel for joining us. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, the presentation will be available on our website afterwards. So check it out there. And then our fourth and final webinar in this series anyway, on financial resources will be in 2 weeks. So we'll hope that you all will join us for that. Registration isn't open for that quite yet, but make sure and stay connected with us on our social media to find out when registration opens for that. All right. Well, thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great holiday weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.